The wind howled across the edge of the old mountain road, carrying with it the scent of pine and something else, grief. Every night, just as the moon rose above the valley, a lone dog appeared at the cliff's edge. His fur was matted, his ribs faintly visible beneath the dust and dirt, but his eyes, those brown, loyal eyes, never wavered. He would sit there, staring into the dark abyss below, his body trembling slightly as if waiting for someone who would never come back. The villagers had grown used to seeing him there. "That's Shadow," they would whisper, "the rich man's dog. He's been waiting for months." No one knew the whole story, only rumors. They said his owner, Daniel Price, was the son of a wealthy businessman, a man whose heart had grown colder as his bank account grew. Daniel had left his mother in a wheelchair after her stroke, caring for her out of obligation more than love. When she became too demanding, too frail, too much of a burden, something in him snapped. One night, he took her for a drive to clear her head. But he came home alone. He told everyone she had fallen from the cliff in a tragic accident. People believed him, at least most of them did. All except Shadow. From that night on, the dog refused to leave the mountainside. Rain, snow, or storm, he came back to the same spot, whining softly into the wind, sometimes pawing at the dirt near the edge as if searching for something, or someone. Villagers tried to feed him, to take him in, but he always ran back to that place, guarding it like a sacred grave. One evening, an old woman named Martha, who lived nearby, decided to follow the dog. She'd lost her husband years ago in a similar accident, and something about the animal's devotion struck her deeply. She watched from a distance as Shadow lay down by the cliff, his nose pressed to the ground, letting out low, mournful cries. Then she noticed something glinting in the moonlight, half buried beneath the soil. She knelt down and brushed it off gently. It was a gold locket. Inside, a tiny picture of a woman with warm eyes and a handwritten note. "My boy, promise me, never let go of love." Martha's heart clenched. That must have been Daniel's mother. The next morning, she went to the police, telling them about the dog and the locket. At first, they brushed it off. There was no evidence of foul play, no reason to reopen the case. But Martha persisted. "A dog doesn't wait in the same place every night for no reason," she said firmly. Eventually, a young officer named Brian agreed to investigate. He brought search dogs and a small team to the cliff. Hours passed before one of the dogs began to bark frantically. They had found something, tattered fabric entangled in the rocks below. When they climbed down, they uncovered the skeletal remains of an elderly woman, her wheelchair twisted among the stones. Near her bones, the metal frame still bore Daniel's fingerprints. The truth spread through the town like wildfire. The perfect image Daniel had built of himself, a successful, charitable businessman, crumbled overnight. He was arrested, his cold eyes filled not with regret but shock, as if he couldn't believe his secret had been betrayed by his own dog. When asked why the dog had stayed there, Daniel muttered bitterly, "He's just an animal. He doesn't understand." But Martha knew better. After the arrest, she took Shadow home. The first few nights, he whimpered endlessly, scratching at the door to be let out. Martha sat beside him, stroking his head, whispering softly, "She's at peace now, boy. You don't have to wait anymore." Still, he returned to the cliff every night. It was as if something in his heart couldn't rest until he felt her presence one last time. Then one evening, Martha followed him again. The air was thick with fog. Shadow stood at the edge, ears perked, tail wagging faintly as if sensing something unseen. For the first time in months, he didn't whine. Instead, he sat still, looking out over the valley, then turned toward Martha and let out a small bark, a sound not of sorrow, but of farewell. He walked to her side, pressed his head against her hand, and together they watched the sunrise spread across the mountains. From that day on, Shadow never returned to the cliff. Weeks later, Martha placed a small marker there, in memory of a mother's love and a dog's loyalty, proof that even after death, truth finds its way home. News of the story spread far beyond the quiet mountain town. Reporters came, filming the place where the dog had waited for months, where love had triumphed over deceit. People around the world shared the story online, calling it, "The Dog Who Remembered." Letters poured in from strangers who said the story restored their faith in loyalty, compassion, and justice. As for Shadow, He grew old peacefully by Martha's side. He followed her everywhere, through the garden, to the market, even to church on Sundays. She often said, "He's not just a dog. He's a reminder that love never dies, it just waits to be seen." One snowy morning, years later, Martha found Shadow lying quietly by her rocking chair, eyes closed, as if asleep. She smiled through tears and whispered, "Go now, boy. She's waiting for you." That night, as the moon shone over the mountain, a soft wind swept past the cliff where the tragedy had once taken place. For a moment, two shadows, one of a woman, one of a dog, seemed to stand together in the silver light, side by side, finally at peace. The villagers who passed by the next morning said the air felt lighter somehow, warmer. And though no one saw Shadow again, every full moon, they could still hear a faint bark echoing through the valley, gentle, loyal, and free. Because love, no matter how buried, always finds its way home.